So the second block of the contents of the second block have a lot to do with just File Explorer, some changes between Windows 7 and Windows 10, actually also looking at the folders that are by default created during an installation of Windows. What are their names? What are they used for? Are they hidden? So we'll talk about those topics, but first talking about files and folders. And again, I'm going to make a general assumption here, guys, that you all know what a file and a folder is. Yes? Okay, so I'm not going to spend time here talking about files and folders. I am going to just note that for the most part, your Windows operating system is more than likely stored on drive C, okay, and that Windows always assigns a drive letter to a storage device. Okay, so if I pop in a thumb drive, it might end up being drive F. If I pop in a second one, it might be drive G. I might have drive D is my DVD drive. I have a drive T on this computer. So your storage areas in a Windows environment, and I say that because Linux and Macs don't use drive letters, but Windows does use drive letters. And again, that drive could be an internal device, an external device. It could be a network storage area. But the program that you use to manage files and folders on a Windows environment in Windows 10 is called File Manager. Okay, it's called File Explorer. In Windows 7 and below, it was called Windows Explorer. So it's the same program, they just gave it a new name. One of the key differences between, that's what I wanted to do. Did I already? Yes, I did. One of the key differences between Windows Explorer in Windows 7 and File Explorer in Windows 10 is where you land by default. Okay, when I say that, I mean when I open File Explorer, where do I end up by default? What is it showing me by default? Windows 10 brings you to this quick access menu that is new to Windows 10. It did not exist in Windows 7. And all it really is it shows you over here on the right frequent folders. By default, it's going to show you the documents, music, desktop, videos, pictures, and downloads, all of your individual. So if I log into this computer, my documents folder is different than if you logged into this computer. If you logged into this computer with your user account, the folder that is available to you to store documents is going to be a different folder than the folders that is available to me. We'll talk about profile folders in a few minutes. Okay, but for the most part, what you'll see by default is those folders as a starting point. So desktop, videos, pictures, downloads, music, and documents. And then you'll see any other folders that you access frequently. You can see my recordings folder on drive T, I access frequently, so it pins that to this area. These are really just shortcuts that point to storage locations that exist on storage devices on your system. For the average user, for the end user who is not in the IT field, they just give you quick access to things that you use often. Okay, but as an IT person, as a person who, in the bottom part actually shows you the files that you access frequently. Okay, as an IT person, knowing the exact location of those files by being able to write that location, and you'll hear me frequently refer to the term absolute path when we're referencing a path to a file or a folder. An absolute path exactly identifies the location of the file in the folder, and when you're working at the command prompt, you are frequently going to be using a path to that file or folder, not a shortcut that was placed on the desktop or in the quick access menu that gives you quick access to that particular item. Okay, so the top portion of quick access by default gives you shortcuts, if you will, which are simply pointers to file locations that exist somewhere else on my hard drive, and also recent files, so files that I've accessed recently. On the right side here, you can see most of these files are actually in my documents folder. So only one of these files is in my documents folder. So you can see this PC /documents. An absolute path to a file always starts with a drive letter colon and a backslash. Always, 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 always. An absolute path starts with a drive letter colon and a backslash. Okay, so you can see here that my these files, I don't even know what their names are. The homework snip, the Windows 10, the Windows 7 to Windows 10. These are all the names of the video files that I just saved. Okay, so they're listed as recent files because I did recently save them. And I did save them on drive T, okay, in a folder called recordings. So you can see T:\/ recordings, that's the absolute path. That's where if I go out to this PC and I go to the T drive and I look at recordings, I can see those files. So I've navigated up here. You can see T:\/ recordings. If I were to reference this in a command, that's how I would reference it. Okay, by starting at a drive letter and in essence listing the directories that you would need, that you would basically have to navigate through to get to that particular folder. What you do not see in the quick access menu is anything that's in your profile areas, any of these particular folders. You're not seeing the absolute path to those. So notice it says this PC / documents. Well, where is that? Okay, where is that actually stored on my computer? Okay, if you right click on that particular entry, in this case the only one that doesn't have an absolute path, and select properties, you'll see in the location area on the general tab, you'll see C:\users / JRouter44 / documents. Okay, so if I go out to this PC and the C drive and the users directory and the JRouter44 folder and the documents folder, you can see that file that was in that frequently used folder. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is that this quick access, I don't know that I would call it a menu, but this quick access area, okay, that was added to Windows 10 just makes it easier for you to quickly access files that you frequently use, okay, which isn't a bad thing, okay, but what I find, at least in my opinion, what Microsoft has little by little done from Windows XP on has kind of moved things to places that are easy for you to access but are not necessarily easy to identify the exact location of that particular file or folder on the drive. And in an IT area, you would need to know that, whether you're going to navigate to it through the C drive or whether you're going to reference it from a command. But quick access is new to Windows 10, did not exist in Windows 7, is the default landing spot, I refer to it as. It is the default landing spot for File Explorer when you open File Explorer. You can open File Explorer a lot of different ways. I always just use the File Explorer that's pinned to the taskbar by default. If you click on the Start button, if you right click on the Start button, you can open File Explorer from here. If you simply click on this icon, it's Documents, it's going to open File Explorer, but it's going to land you in the Documents folder. So if I do that, you'll see it actually landed me in my Documents folder. If you have Cortana enabled, you can tell Cortana to launch Explorer. From the command prompt, you can type Explorer. From the search box, you can type Explorer. So there's probably 50 different ways that you can actually open Explorer. For the most part, I usually just click on the folder icon that exists in my taskbar. Okay, so that's the landing spot. It is not where Windows 7 landed. If I come out to my Windows 7 machine and I go to Windows Explorer on Windows 7, notice Windows 7 by default landed me in this area called Libraries. Okay, libraries still exist in Windows 10, but they are hidden by default. So I think Microsoft's trying to get you to not use libraries and to use those quick access areas instead. But Windows libraries, I'll show you how you can redisplay them in a second. But Windows in Windows 7, your libraries are pretty much, again, just shortcuts to documents, music, pictures, and video. So if I click on documents, I can see the contents of my documents libraries. And they were called libraries in Windows 7. They're still called libraries in Windows 8, but they're not used the same way. In Windows 7, you'll notice up here it says 2 locations. Okay, when I click on 2 locations here, you'll actually see I'm logged in on that Windows 7 machine as a user called administrator. So you can see C:\users\administrators documents. So I'm seeing the absolute path to one of the 2 locations of the files that I'm seeing here. Okay? If I open documents, you can actually see those 2 locations. If I click on 2 locations, I can see the absolute path to those 2 locations. The second location is called public documents. Okay, public documents is a folder in the C:\users directory that is used. I'm hesitating because when I look at all of the folders that exist on the C drive, I go into what that folder is then, and I'll just hold off on that. But the point is that when you look at libraries on a Windows 7 machine, by default, it's showing you 2 different locations. Okay, it's showing you your personal documents folder, and it's showing you a public documents folder. Anything in the public documents folder is available to anybody who sits at this computer. Okay, so when you are on a Windows computer and you log into that computer, you end up with a profile on that computer. My user's name is jruta44, so this is my profile folder. But notice all of the other profile folders that exist on this computer. Do you think I should have rights to their profile folders? Do you think I should have rights to somebody else who uses this computer's documents folder? No, okay? By default, Microsoft says, your profile folder is available to you. And so if I double click on, say, J. Decker's, okay, it's going to come up and tells me that I don't have permissions. Now, I have administrative rights on this computer, so I could get past that, but I'm not going to. But the point of the matter is that a regular user would see everybody else's profile, but not be able to get to those folders. Okay, so that would mean that if I were, in fact, using this computer with another person in my household, and I wanted to share some files with them, but I did not want to give them access to everything in my documents folder, then I could store stuff in this public documents folder. Okay, if I store stuff here, then I'm going to be able to, anybody that uses this computer will have access to it, and by default, it will be part of their, I'm not in Windows 7 anymore, am I? Okay, and by default, it will be part of their libraries. Okay, so again, if I look here, when I'm clicked on documents, there's nothing that I'm seeing in this list that says these files are in your personal documents area and these are in the public documents area. But if I click on documents, public documents here, you can see there's only one file of this entire list, and that's this one right here, that's actually in the public area. Okay, so anybody at all who has a profile on this computer would also see that file in documents. Okay, but it would be part of a different area. So Windows 10 said, nah, for whatever reason, decided we're not going to do that anymore. We don't have libraries. It's not your landing point anymore. Quick access is your landing point. Shortcuts here to your frequently accessed folders, assuming that your documents, music, desktop, videos, and so on are part of your frequently accessed folders. If you wanted to enable libraries, you could. There are a number of different ways you can do it. Probably the fastest way is to just right-click. Not right-clicked in the right place, am I? If I go to File menu and go to Change, you can see I do this often. Let me see. View? Is it in View? Yeah. Under View, under Navigation pane, you can say Show Libraries. Okay, now notice if I close that, I can see the libraries. Actually, when I was right-clicking before, I was kind of right-clicking on the folders. If I right-click in a white space that isn't actually a folder, then you can see the option to show libraries. Okay, so it's checked off, so you can actually see the libraries, but unlike Windows 7, it is not made up of multiple locations. In Windows 8, 10 I should say, it is just your personal profile folder. And again, if I go to properties here, actually, I go to properties of the actual folder, and I go to properties, you can see that location. Again, C:users, J root of 44. Okay, so your File Explorer, Windows Explorer, whatever you want to call it, your file management program that's used by Microsoft to allow you to manage files and folders in the graphical user interface on your Windows operating system. Those are some of the changes. If you do not like, well, first of all, if you don't want libraries displayed, then they aren't by default, so I can hide those. If you would prefer to land on this PC, where you still have the shortcuts to those profile folders, but instead now you have access to the storage devices on your Windows operating system. Microsoft has changed the organization of this. Your Windows 7, let's look at Windows 7. I'm trying to remember what one of the key differences was. If I click on it, it was actually called, so computer in Windows 7 is now this PC in Windows 10. So when I select it, you can see your hard disks and drives. These are going to be your internal devices, okay? And then your removable devices are listed here. Windows 10 has lumped all those together. I don't happen to have any removable devices attached to this machine, so we're not seeing them. But when I look at Windows Explorer here, if I had a thumb drive popped in here, it would be added to this area. So your devices and drives are not two categories anymore. Windows 7 had your local devices and your removable devices. Windows 10 has combined them into one category. Your network locations are still separate, so I can see this is the network. So here, when I log into a computer at the college, I think have any of you used the computers here on campus? So you have an N drive. Yes, do you still have an N drive? I don't know, they keep changing things, so I always have to confirm. So the N drive is actually a storage location up on a server somewhere, so that you can store files there and have access to them from any computer that you log in at. So that's a storage location that's available just to you, and it is a network location, okay? It's not local, it's not stored locally on this computer, it's stored up on a server. So you still have the network locations separate on Windows 10. Windows 7 also included that. So you can see the network locations. I have a network location that doesn't exist anymore, so we have big X there. But for the most part, this is where you would see those network locations. Okay. If you do not like the quick access, some people say, no, I don't like that. I want to land in this PC. You can customize this by on the View menu. So if you click on View, way over here on the right, if you click on Options, and then in this box here where it says Open File Explorer to Quick Access, that's the default. If you want to open it to this PC, then you can just change that. So now if I OK out of here and I close File Explorer and then I reopen it, you'll see now that I landed, if you will, in this PC. Okay. Other ways that you can customize quick access, if I again go back to View and go to Options, then along the bottom portion of this general dialog box, under the privacy box, okay, you'll notice Show Recently Used Files in Quick Access is checked off. If I uncheck that, okay, that simply means that it will no longer continue to track that information. It will not remove anything that's currently there. It'll just say stop tracking. From this point on, as I open files, its frequently used files are not going to pop in. So stop tracking that information. Same holds true with the frequently used folders. Okay, if I wanted to clear the entries that are currently there, so quick access here, if I wanted to clear the entries that were there, again, under View, under Options, you would simply click on Clear. Okay, Clear will clear anything that was pinned there for you, like a frequently accessed folder, a frequently accessed file. But you can pin things there yourself. So if I came out here and let's say, for example's sake, I wanted to pin CIS 121 folder, I can right click on that and notice you have the option to pin to quick access. If you manually pin something to the quick access menu, when you click on clear, okay, it will not clear that entry. Okay, it'll clear things that, so notice CIS 121 is still there, but recordings is no longer there. Okay, recordings was pinned there because I used it a lot. So now if I clear, this CIS 121 will always stay there. Okay, so again, if you manually pin it, it's always going to be there. If it pinned it itself because you used it a lot, then clearing will actually clear that. If you want to clear it and continue tracking, then you would click on clear and leave these two things checked off. Okay, if you wanted to clear it and stop tracking, then you would click on clear and uncheck those two check boxes. Okay, so you can move it so that it doesn't keep track of those things for you, and you can also have it land in a different location so that it's not using quick access. Questions on those, on quick access, modifying or customizing, if you will, quick access? I think that's it for quick access and file explorer. Okay, which brings me to the folder structure. So let me just save this.